Previously on Higurashi wa Keiichi, Chapter 7. The future is supposed to be an infinite weave of countless choices. Yet for whatever reason, our world always ends in death. If we were to compare it to something, perhaps a maze of fate would be appropriate. Looping through the same moments forever, steadily grows harder and more dejecting, eventually producing something like me. In the next world, she should only have about 2 weeks of time. Rika is going to try and break all 3 rules in just those 2 weeks. If she can break all 3 rules, Rika will be freed from her eternal prison. She doesn't have much time left, though. Rika has traveled through many worlds. Her physical lifespan is not a problem, but her mental lifespan is getting shorter. Last time too, I gave up on fighting destiny. I realized Reina was beyond salvation, so I bid her farewell, and forsook that world. But Keiichi fought and broke the cycle of fate. I should have worked harder with that Keiichi in that world. I could have broken this endless cycle together with him. Am I going to repeat this life, waiting for that miracle to happen again? And so it continues. Greetings, my name is Neosekken, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Higurashi wa Keiichi, Chapter 7. So, we got one more shot at this, according to Rika, before she's effectively done. And yet, we also have another chapter after this one too, so either Chapter 8 is going to be a direct continuation of 7, or tragedy that's going to hit really hard is going to end up hitting us at the end of Chapter 7 before we move on to Chapter 8. It's going to be one of those two things. Or maybe Chapter 7 will surprise us in either a good or a bad way. I don't know. But there's only one way to find out, right? So, let's get into it.
Hi.
Hello there, Coach.
もう結構ですよ。
Irie withdrew the needle from Satoko's arm. What's the shot for? It must not have hurt much for the needle to be pulled out. Satoko kept her eyes closed in fear, thinking that the needle was still inside her arm.
Satoko, お注射はもう終わったのですよ。
Well, we actually get to see you in your nurse outfit, huh? So what kind of evil shit are you up to right now, I wonder?
もう終わってたんですの。
As Satoko opened her eyes, she found that Irie was no longer sitting in front of her. Takano was wiping her arm with rubbing alcohol instead.
そうよ。もう終わってたのよ。入江先生は私よりお注射が上手だから。
I think Tomitaki would beg to differ.
終わったことにも気づかなかったでしょ。傷口を揉んじゃダメよ。できれば重いものも持たないこと。
ええ、分かっていましたよ。サトコは偉いのですよ。なでなでしてあげますのです。注射くらいもう全然平気ですのよ。
It's okay. You were a brave cookie. You can have a pat on the head without being ashamed about it.
リカに撫でられるような覚えはございませんですわ。
Not long ago, she would go into a panic when it was time for her to get her shot. I can relate. The way she behaved today in itself is worthy of praise. Everyone in the room smiled, aware of that growth.
じゃあ、さとこちゃんはいつもの検査を受けてください。
So what, is it like a... No, this is in summer, it wouldn't be flu season. Again, what's the shot for?
高野さん、お願いします。
ええ。さあ、さとこちゃん、 いつものクイズをしましょうね。
高野さんのクイズは答えにくい問題が多くて私苦手ですわね。
いつもと同じよ。答えづらい問題はわからないと言ってくれればいいわ。変に考え込まず自然に思いついた答えを口にしてくれればいいのよ。
What kind of quiz are you going to do exactly? I'm curious. Takano smiled at Satoko to ease her tension. When she led Satoko to a desk in the back of the then she led her to the back of the examination room. Blah.
さとこの具合、良いといいのです。
What she got? I don't know if it's because of the heat, but Satoko has been showing negative symptoms since last month. Has this happened before? In other timelines, I mean. The change of the seasons can affect her physically and emotionally. It's not a surprise that this is happening to her.
私は入江たちのところへでも行って、さとこの容体を聞いてみるわ。羽生はどうする？僕はさとこのそばにいてあげますのです。ありがとう。そうしてあげて。
Hanyu went over to where Satoko was. Fortunately, I'm the only one who can see Hanyu. She won't be a distraction if she goes and observes Satoko's test. I, of course, would be a distraction like that. This is supposed to be a routine exam, but it seems like Takano is teasing her by giving her difficult questions. You're horrible. It would be pretty funny to observe how Satoko reacts to them. I'm a little jealous that Hanyu gets to watch everything without being a bother to Satoko. Hehe. Irie was talking with two other staff members about Satoko's exam results. I walked up and joined them.
よかった。では、解放に向かっていますか？
From what Irie was saying, her results must have turned out well.
入江、どうなのですか？
安心してください。いい結果が出ました。では、あとよろしくお願いします。
After ordering his staff to continue their work, Irie showed me some difficult paperwork and started explaining it to me.
先週の検査結果に少々焦りすぎたようです。急に気候が変わったので、交感神経が過敏に反応したのでしょう。風邪をひきかけたりということはありませんでしたか？
There was one night recently that was fairly hot. Satoko was sleeping without her blanket and her stomach was exposed. She might have caught a cold that night. Either that or... Well, no. If it's the bug, then she'd be probably displaying other symptoms too by this point. Well, then again, if it just started, maybe she wouldn't, at least not outwardly.
お腹を出して寝てたことがありましたです。おへそをつっついたけど起きなかったのです。
それは羨ましい。
Yeah, you would find that fun, wouldn't you?
ぜひ、今度そういうことがあったら呼んでください。私もさとこちゃんのおへそをプニプニしてみたいものです。
Maybe you should ask if Nurse Takano would be more willing to do that for you. I'd be curious to see what would happen.
プニプニなのですよ。お腹もぽよぽよなのです。
Oh, don't let her hear you say that.
可愛いからお布団をかけるのがもったいないのですよ。
それが寝冷えの真相ですか。
リーカー、聞こえていましたよ。
Up, too late.
そういう時はこっそりお布団をかけてくださいませ。
ダメよ、さとこちゃん。検査中よ。時間も計ってるんだから、こっちに集中して。
Irie, Hanyu, and I all laughed. Satoko went back to her task with a bitter look on her face. Irie began speaking to me in a softer voice.
ただ、小康状態には戻りましたが、レベルはレベル3マイナス。
Remission. Does she have something? I'm trying to remember. Did somebody ever mention in the previous chapters that she had some kind of physical condition? Like, the one that comes to mind for me is her color blindness. But beyond that, I don't remember. Well, I'm sure you're about to tell us what exactly it is anyway, so lay it on me, Doc.
昨日も今日も明日も危険な状態を脱していないことに変わりはありません。
Critical condition? What the hell does she have?
レベル3は永遠に治らないのですか？
アナフェラキシーショックと同じで、仮に異物が完全に取り除かれても、人体側に過剰な反応を示す体質が作られてしまいます。
Anaphylaxis. I've heard that before, but I don't know what it is.
つまり、
聡子は完治しても一生レベル3から治らない。
Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna look this up real fast. And, not quite what I was looking for, but kind of flax. You know what? Since my phone is doesn't want to cooperate with me. Anaphylaxis. Okay, there we go. I got it. Never mind. Give me a very allergic reaction. So, okay, it's that. Okay, I do know this. It's that thing that gives you a nasty allergic reaction to peanuts and bee stings. I think that's also the same one that you need like a bobby pin for. In case you get exposed to either, they need to inject a bobby pin into your leg or something, and then it makes you stable enough to it stabilizes you enough to where you could get to a hospital quick enough here to have doctors take over and get your condition back under control. So, but it's not that. So what exactly is it? Some kind of similar disease?
そういうことになります。ですが、悲観することはありません。規則正しい生活習慣とセルフコントロール、そしてある種の投薬を続けることによって症状の発生を抑えることができます。
一生治らない。
I looked at Satoko as she enjoyed taking her test. She seemed to be having fun, even while being teased by Takano. I can't believe that she's suffering from an incurable disease.
言葉を悪く言えばそうなります。ですが、世の中には難病ではあってもうまく病気と付き合っていけるケースも少なくありません。
Well, what exactly is this thing? Give me a name so I can at least do a quick read-up on it, so I know what we're dealing with.
例えば、糖尿病がそうでしょう。病気そのものは生涯治りませんが、その発症は抑えることができます。
I know that very well. There are many worse diseases in the world. Satoko might be in a relatively good situation compared to many other sick people.
もちろん、これで妥協するつもりはありません。聡子ちゃんはきっと完治させます。絶対にです。
信じてますですよ。
ええ、信じてください。
I want to, believe me. Yuri spoke to me with a serious look on his face. As Satoko's best friend, I felt relieved to hear his words. I'm sure he'll do his best to save Satoko's life. I have no doubt that he'll do so. I've seen him act like this in every life I've lived. I also know why he's so passionate to save her. but I'm not supposed to know about it in this life. That's why I always pretend not to see his sad smile.
そうだ、リカさん。月末にまた少し大掛かりな検査があります。
今度は僕がモルモットになる番なのですか？
そんなつもりは。医学に貢献していただいていますし、大勢の人を救うことにもなります。
What's the study? Irie's guinea pig is not just a Toko. I'm also one of them. Although guinea pig is probably not the right term. Without Irie's efforts, Satoko would not be here today. For that reason, I should be showing respect to this man. I smiled at him, since my choice of words had hurt his feelings.
僕を調べて、サトコの治療に役立つのなら、僕がモルモットでもいいの？
ご協力を感謝します。もう少し人と設備とお金があれば、これだけの負担をかけないのですが。
This is already a very well-equipped clinic for a village of this size, isn't it? Like, how much more money and equipment are we talking about here? The next moment, the phone rang. Irie answered it in his usual business-like tone.
はい、もしもし、入江です。
東京から凱旋です。そちらへ回します。
Oh, from Tokyo, huh? What's the occasion? I could hear the voice from the phone.
ああ、リサさんですね。もう今年もそんな時期になりましたか。電話は所長室で取りますから、そっちへ回してください。
Absolutely. Please hang up on this line in that case. No voice for that one.
わか
I
り
wonder
ました。
why.
リカさん、すみません。東京からの電話です。
いってらっしゃいなのですよ。
As soon as Irie hung up the phone in the other room started ringing. He left the examination room and headed towards the office. Hanyu returned to my side as soon as Irie left. Hanyu doesn't like to be around me when I'm talking with Irie. I don't think she dislikes him. It's just that she doesn't really want to hear what he has to say. Irie doesn't mean any harm, but Hanyu is often hurt by the things that come out of his mouth.
どう？サトコの様子は？サトコは相変わらず間違い探しは下手くそなのです。僕の方がいっぱい見つけられましたのですよ。あんたの検査結果なんてどうでもいいでしょ。
Oh. Well, it's okay. I'll give you praise for doing well.
サトコの結果はどうなの？
I thought she was there to check on Satoko, but she was taking a quiz alongside her instead. Well, I mean, hey, she's still there with her, and I mean, she's experiencing what she's going through firsthand, so I mean, I think that still counts. It's so typical of Hanyu. She was treating it almost like a game, but Satoko was tired after taking the same quiz every week. She seemed sleepy, especially after waking up so early this morning. The quiz in this case wasn't about a right or wrong answer. It was about timing, in minutes, how long it took her to answer the question, and observing how she acted during the quiz. Not all the questions would be simple ones, so Satoko often got headaches, more so than even the spelling tests we take at school.
もうほとんど終わりなの？はいです。今、高野が持っているのが最後の一冊なのですよ。
Takano was showing a book to Satoko with abstract pictures inside. I couldn't even tell if it was supposed to be a picture. It was just a symmetrical ink stain.
さあ、これで最後よ。これは何に見えるかしら？
A syringe! Both Hanyu and I looked at the picture over Satoko's shoulders. Even I didn't know what to answer when looking at that strange ink stain. Well, let me see it.
と、
Satoko continued to think. Takano observed her, taking notes while Satoko struggled. She was also timing how long it took her to answer, holding a stopwatch under the table. I spoke to Hanyu so only she could hear me.
羽生は何に見える？このシミ。ソフトクリームなのです。滑って落としてしまって地面にべっしゃりとなのです。もったいない。
I don't... No, there's no way ice cream could have existed in whatever time frame I'm assuming you're from.
なるほど。実に相手の考えがわかるテストね。
Also assuming, of course, you really aren't just a figment of Rika's imagination. To me, it looked like a horse mackerel that had been cut open and its guts pulled out. That's morbid. I was thinking of food, too. It was rather shocking to learn that my thought processes are the same as Hanyu's.
何に見えるかしら？思いつきでいいのよ。
Satoko must not be very good at this test. She always takes a long time to answer questions like this. She finally opened her mouth to speak.
2匹の蝶々が重なっている感じですわね。
Interesting.
2匹の蝶々が重なって。いいわよ。どうして蝶々は重なっているのかしら？
Takano continued to take notes as Satoko spoke. Curious about what she was writing, I looked up, but... Is that German? Interesting. Why are you writing in German? I can't read it at all. Takano is so mean.
ずっと離れ離れで会えなかった蝶々が、やっと一緒になれて喜んでるところ。ごめんなさいですわね。
Although I do wonder, I didn't think you... Wait. Well, you do seem to have some knowledge of, rather interesting, morbid, folk tales and other similar things from other cultures and countries as well, not just Hinamizawa, so maybe it's not too much of a stretch to assume you know at least a few phrases and whatnot in other languages as well. But I can't help but wonder, is this in any way important? The fact that you're writing this stuff in German? Or am I just reading too much into this?
私も何を言ってるのか自分でよくわかりませんわね。
Oh, I'm just now really taking in what she's saying here, and now I'm feeling sad. Stop making me feel sad, Satoko.
いえ、そういう答え方でいいのよ。思いついたことが抽象的なら、そのまま口にしてくれればいいの。そういう検査なんだから。
本当にこんなへんてこな絵の感想を言うだけで検査になりますの？
なるわよ。例えば今のこの絵だけど、去年のさとこちゃんは別な答えを出してるの。それを比べるだけでもこの1年のあなたの変化を測ることができるわよ。
なんだか嫌なテストですわね。去年の私はこの絵に何て答えたのでございますの？
Takano smiled and took a note without answering her question. Don't be... okay, I think you're up to evil stuff here, but don't be rude. I tried to remember what her answer was, but I have more than 100 years' worth of memories in my head. Hanyu might remember better than I do. As I looked at Hanyu, I realized that she was standing there with a sad expression. I decided not to ask her. I could tell what kind of answer Satoko gave back then just by looking at Hanyu's face. Last year, June 1982. That was when Satoko was being abused by her cruel aunt. Recalling that, I didn't even want to know what Satoko answered. But just last year, the Satoko who was so worn down could no longer be seen. She became so strong. I know how difficult it was for her to stay tough and strong like this. Her growth over the past year is overwhelming to me.
ケンさん、終わりましたか？
Irie returned from his office.
ええ、終わりましたわ。
だいぶさとこちゃんも手際が良くなりましたわ。今日はだいぶ早く終わりましたのよ。
早く終わらせるように頑張ったんですもの。今日は用事がある日だからのんびりとはできませんのよ。
おや？今日は何かあるんですか？日曜日ではありませんでしたっけ？
今日はみんなでミーのおじさんのおもちゃ屋さんで部活があるのですよ。
The toy store again, huh?
なるほど。さとこちゃんが妙に今日はおとなしく検査に従ってくださると思いました。予定が詰まっていたんですね。それは悪いことをしました。
I wonder if we're doing the same exact activity at the toy store that we did in chapters 2 and 5, are we going to get yet another variation of chapter 2's events? Where it's a Shion that goes off the rails?
ではさとこちゃん、これはいつものです。
Irie put a big paper bag on the table. He opened it up and gave her instructions about the medications. Satoko had heard the same instructions over and over before, but Irie still continued to talk just the same.
状態がいいようですので、お注射はこれまでの日に2回に戻します。昼食前と就寝前の2回に必ず注射をしてください。注射針は必ず変えるように。同じ針を2度使ってはいけませんよ。
You know, I just had a thought. This is undoubtedly how Rika could get her hands on the syringes themselves in the previous chapters. Probably because she was just simply taking syringes from Satoko's medications. Now, how she gets the anesthetic drugs, on the other hand, well, I think I'd be willing to bet maybe she just sneaks into the clinic and steals some when no one's looking. That'd be my guess.
それからこちらはどうしても体調が悪くなった時のみ食後に。
はいはいはい、いつもと同じですわよ。分かっていましたよ。
Satoko couldn't wait to meet our friends for the club activity. It made me feel happy to see her as excited as this.
注射2本に戻りましたのですよ。よかったのです。
The number of shots she has to take each day represents how well she's doing. So it's a good thing that she has to take fewer shots.
大変よね。1日に2本も注射を打つのは。
Hanyu grew quiet after hearing my comment. Irie handed her the paper bag after he finished his instructions.
リカ、終わりましたよ。
ええ、お疲れ様。検査中からずっとそわそわしてたからね。いってらっしゃいな。
すみませんわね、上の空で。いつも検査をしてくださって感謝していますのよ。
That's just a thing. I don't think we really. I just wonder how much we really should be thanking her for. For all we know, she's probably scheming. She's probably scheming to do something sinister with these test results of yours. Although Lord knows how test results here would factor into anything that's going on in the grand conspiracy, but considering how freaking complicated this whole mess has become over the course of the story thus far, I really would not be surprised at all if somehow these test results could be factored into something somewhere. But once again, maybe I'm just overthinking this.
ほら、もう時間がないんじゃないの？私の車で送ろうかしら。
Sweet of you to offer.
そうそ
I
う。
don't think I should
ま
take
た
it though.
車に新しいぬいぐるみがあるのよ。今度は約束通り、さとこちゃんが名前をつけてくれていいわよ。
あら、何のぬいぐるみでございますかしら。
Either some kind of bear or, yeah, I don't know what else it could be.
どんな名前にしようか迷いますわね。何の動物のぬいぐるみなんですの？
また猫なのよ。
Call them Spots. Or just Spot.
今度は虎島なの。可愛いからきっと気に入ってくれるわよ。
Satoko and Takano are good friends. They're both fond of stuffed animals. Every time Takano gets a new one, she brags about it to Satoko. It's all they have in common, but having a friend like Takano is a special thing for Satoko, and that is just making me feel even worse for Satoko, because I am pretty convinced that this lady here is just helping to make her life, and pretty much everyone else's in this village's life, an absolute living hell before, you know, death. She's part of the Hoju family, who tried to betray the village. People at the clinic are the only adults who will even talk to Satoko.
じゃあお二人とも部活行ってらっしゃい。
You know, I never even thought of that. That there's probably only literally a handful of adults who, even to this day, would actually be willing to talk to Satoko. All just because she happens to be the child of, well, her parents. Not gonna lie, that makes me feel a little angry.
罰ゲームが未定でしたら、ぜひメイド服の着用を提案してくださいね。
Keep your libido under control, Doc.
サイズから種類までいろいろと取り揃えておりますので。
Oh, you do you? Interesting.
また来週お会いしましょう。
やなこったなのですよ。また来週なのです。さ、行きましょうですわ。今日は部活メンバーだけじゃありませんものね。腕が鳴りましたよ。
I bowed slightly and made to leave the examination room, but I soon realized something. Irie was looking at me with a sad expression on his face. Everything okay, Doc? Just with that look, I could tell what he wanted to say. Please take care of Satoko-chan if something happens to her. I nodded at him and stepped out of the way into the hallway with Satoko.
やれやれ。検査は慣れても疲れますわね。検査、お嫌なのですか？めんどくさいから嫌ではありますけど、これも仕事ですもの。仕方ありませんわ。
Satoko is supporting Irie's research. She gets financial support by helping him out. I was just going to suggest, with how often you seem to go to these tests, they should financially compensate you. And I'm like, well, hey, there you go. Looks like they are. Or at least that's what Satoko thinks she's doing. Never mind, maybe I spoke too soon. There it is, the toy shop of destiny. Satoko was bursting with enthusiasm, so we head to Okinomiya at full speed. We wound up waiting for Keiichi and the other club members for a long time. We got here early, but they were late. I think they were late the last time we did this, too. Did it mean that this was something that was meant to happen? It's unpleasant that I can't even change the most minor of fates. I finally saw them coming towards us on their bikes. You're late!
皆様方、お待ちしてましたよ。
Satoko acted like she was upset, but I could tell she was pleased to see them just the same.
さとこが可愛いのですよ。そこが飽きないのよ。可愛すぎる。
You, me, and Hanyu were all three of a mind. Satoko's behavior soothes my feelings of frustration. This is why I love Satoko. If she was a small fluffy animal, I would definitely keep her in a cage. I guess it's a good thing then that she's not a small animal, because I definitely wouldn't. I'd let her roam around my bedroom all free, even if she were a bird.
さとこちゃん、リカちゃん、おはよう。おはようございますなのです。
And good morning to you, scary school, well, not school shooter, but, well, what can I call you, since your main weapons were a bunch of gasoline gases and a freaking hatchet? Whatever, I'll think about it later. Either way, it's good to see you. Good morning.
Oh!
And good morning to you too, dumbass.
おはようリカちゃん。
Also good to see you.
さとこ、警察が来る前にケリをつけるぞ。目標は10億強奪だ。
Ho ho ho! 1 billion yen.
ケイチさんの話がわかりませんわ。遅くなったかな。
I believe Satoko did just say that, as well as myself.
リカちゃんたちは今来たの？今日は早く終わったので、だいぶ待ってましたですよ。
Mion and Reina know that Satoko gets a checkup every Sunday at the clinic.
そりゃ悪いことしたわ。
Speaking of Mion, hello to you too.
こっちはケイちゃんがなかなか来なくてさ。
That Keiichi. So you're the reason they're all late. Keiichi! I think we should just skip the club activity and go straight to the punishment game. So he's the reason they're always late.
ケイチでは仕方ありませんですよ。ニパー。
ちょい待て。俺が悪役になれば丸く収まるのかよ。
Yes, yes you are.
もちろん。ケイチさんでなくては務まらない大役でしたよ。
See? Satoko agrees with me. Well, then again,
実に
Reina
嫌な
was...
大役だな。
Then again, Reina was more or less the primary villain of the last chapter, so he's not the only one who could play the villain, to be fair.
こんなので丸く収まると思ったら大間違いだぞ。
Keiichi and Satoko messed around with each other. Satoko acted like she was crying, and Reina punched Keiichi, knocking him out cold. It was the same old situation they always got into. I can watch this sort of thing forever. It's like having a glass of cold milk after taking a hot bath. I've never done that. Maybe I should try it someday.
やっぱりこれが正しい丸い収め方だよな。
前歯が欠ける前に新しいオチを探した方がいいと思うけどね。
Also, Keiichi, if it's any comfort, in another time, in another place, in another lifetime, you kind of did win against her. Although I guess it was technically more of a draw. But, you know, details. We all laughed at him and finished greeting each other.
今日もみんなとっても元気なのです。
I know, it's making me sad that we're gonna see them all get a lot less lively before long.
元気に勝る宝はないわね。そんなこと言ってると、 リカはどんどん老け込んじゃいますのです。
Well, she's lived dozens of different lifetimes. She might as well be.
うるさいな。誰のせいだと思ってんのよ。
It's okay, Hanyu. I care what you think.
当分甘いものを食べるのやめるわよ。
Wait, so if you eat sweets, then Hanyu gets to taste them as well? So then that would kind of mean that she is a figment of your imagination then. I would think so, because I mean, if she's not a figment of your imagination, then unless there's some kind of psychic link going on between you two, and that she really is a separate entity that's just connected to you, then yeah, I think this is also evidence that she could just be a figment of your imagination because, again, unless there's psychic nonsense involved, how could she taste what you taste? I'll need more information, I think, before I decide which it is. Either figment or a separate being that's just psychically connected to Rika. I need more. Probably a lot more, for all I know. Hanyu seems to be getting more depressed than usual. Well, you are threatening to deprive her of sweets. And she seems to really like sweets, as evidenced by what she saw in that picture earlier. So I'm not surprised. I should stop teasing her so much.
嘘よ。冗談だからあんまりひっつかないで。
Oh? You can feel her too?
ごめんなさいなのです。
Hanyu loves sweet treats. She especially loves cake and ice cream. Since she can't eat anything, she has to depend on me when it comes to that. In other words, whenever I eat, Hanyu can taste too. Even if Hanyu craves something, it doesn't mean anything if I don't eat it. Well, I think that goes without saying. In other words, I have total control of what she eats. Poor Hanyu. That's why it's fun to tease her with saying what I'll eat and what I won't. It's almost as fun as teasing Satoko.
リカちゃんは今日もご機嫌だね。お持ち帰り。
はいはい、お持ち帰ったら犯罪だからね。
Yeah, I'm sure she could get away. Reina's very crafty, as we all know.
ミオン、店のおじさんが呼んでるぜ。
リカ、聞きまして。今日の部活、賞金が出るんだそうですのよ。
It's a doll, right? Well, dolls, since you all get one. I remember. Mion's going to be paying 50,000 yen out of her pocket as a prize. I couldn't believe she could just afford that. Therefore, I have to assume that she has some kind of guarantee that she won't lose.
なんと5万円でしたよ。5万円。
Satoko stared at me. Oh no. She was expecting me to be surprised to hear that the prize was 50,000 yen. It's natural to be surprised after hearing that sum. But I didn't react because I already knew it. Perhaps I had given the impression that I've known it for a long time.
ケイチさん、5万円なんてすごい賞金と思いませんですこと？
I don't know. Maybe, I mean, you could just simply say, if she honestly thinks that, I'm sorry, I was focused on, my mind was elsewhere, and she probably wouldn't think anything of it. I mean, don't panic.
5万円？なんだよそれ。ケイイチ王国の5年分の GNP に匹敵するぞ。
I think for you, it'd be more accurate to say it's more like 50 years' worth of Keiichi GNP. Satoko said the same thing to Keiichi. She probably assumed that I wasn't listening to her, so she decided to talk to Keiichi instead.
5万 小さなミスよ。大丈夫。
You sure?
5万円もあればもうずっと使い切れないくらいのお醤油が買えますです。なんで5万円分もお醤油を買わないといけないんですの。
I forgot that why ever it was actually a word.
お醤油を買ってきてと言ってもめんどくさがる人がいるからなのですよ。ピパーリカって結構根に持ちますのね。
Well, if she's right, then, well, the truth can be mean. The truth often does not care for one's feelings. In fact, it never
5万円
does.
分の醤油って一体どのくらいだよ。すげえ量になりそうだな。
Keiichi joined the conversation, which finally brought us back to our normal pace. In order to pursue a greater happiness, I need to sacrifice a smaller one. In a perfect world, Rika Farud was supposed to be surprised to hear from her best friend that the prize was 50,000 yen. But I already knew that. I already knew from my previous lives, so all I could do was give her a boring reaction. I can't be surprised at the big prize of 50,000 yen. I can't give her the reaction that she expects from me. I am losing the ability to be surprised by life. And after the continual repetition of small incidents like this, there will be nothing left that I can find interesting. I'll have nothing to be surprised about. I'll never be impressed with anything. Eventually, I'll lose my emotions entirely. That's why I'm always trying to be careful. I really don't envy your position. At all. I make sure I act like the Rika Farud who doesn't know anything. Even though I may not be impressed, as a young girl, Rika Farud should be impressed with many things. Rika Farud is supposed to act excited when she encounters something for the first time. I try to, at least. But the more and more I try, the more I feel like Rika Farud is someone very distant.
リカ、ごめん。こういうことで感情を灰色にするとまた寿命が縮んじゃうわね。
Well, who can blame you, really? I'd feel the exact same way as you would if I were in your shoes.
世界をもっと楽しまなきゃ。
I don't mean my lifespan, literally. I'm not referring to my physical lifespan, but my mental one. The more and more I repeat the same days, the more I lose. From wonder to passion, and eventually my life will become like an overplayed videotape. If I'm tired of that tape, I have a choice to close my eyes and sleep. By the time I wake up, the video should be over. But in reality, my life is not a beat-up old videotape. If I close my eyes and sleep, that would be my death. When my mental lifespan is over, Rika Farud will turn into a doll who can't even move a finger by her own will. When that happens, my pursuit of happiness will be over. I don't want that to happen. It's been at least 100 years, if not more. I've been stuck in this living hell for so long. I don't want my life to end here.
ごめん。もう大丈夫。100年程度で愚痴ってたら、あんたに笑われちゃうものね。
Does she look like she finds this funny?
僕はもう運命に慣れていますのですから。よし、大丈夫。私はフルでリカ。私はフルでリカ。
If I don't stay focused on being Rika Farud, I'm afraid I might end up showing my true self inside of that shell. Rika Farud is supposed to be a cute, innocent little girl, after all.
みー、レナだったら5万円で何を買いますですか？ランディ君人形とか売ってもらえないのかな？
By Kenta, you mean the Colonel Sanders doll. No, wait, no, that's from the garbage.
沖宮のチェーン店に5万円持ってったら売ってくれないかな？
No, I know what the Kenta-kun doll is, but it's just slipped my mind temporarily.
おお、その5万円で鎖を切る工具と第8車を買った方が早いと思いますです。
I agree.
レナさんだったら素手で鎖を引きちぎりかねませんわね。
違いない違いない。
はあ、ひどい。
Why are you going this mean? If anything, they're praising you. Thus, we rejoin the typical flow of conversation naturally. Once I enter that flow, it's not hard for me to continue as Rika Farud. Being Rika Farud is like flying a kite for me. Once it's up in the air, it can stay in the sky for a while. But if something happens and it loses control, it's one heck of a challenge to get it back on track. Every time it tries to get back up in the air, the kite gets dragged on the ground and wears out. I'm exactly like that. Finally, Mion started clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. I already knew the rules. The members will be broken into 5 different groups, and each group plays the game that they choose together. I was secretly hoping that Mion would change the rules for some reason. There's nothing more boring than to already know what was going to happen.
ミオンの部活って割と気まぐれなことが多いもの。ひょっとするとルールは違うこともあるかも。普段ならそういうこともあると思いますですが、今日はきっと何日も前から計画していたことだと思うのです。
Well, even though we're right smack in the middle of a time loop, I would argue still, you don't know for sure what might happen, because we are in that period in the time loop where events can be radically different from how everything that came before has been since. So just wait and see.
強い意志は運命になりやすい。だったわね。
Normally when we're doing club activities, Mion decides what to play at the last minute. She opens her locker and randomly decides what game to play. For that reason, our club activities are rarely repeated throughout my lives. That's why I'm never bored with them. But just as Hanyu said, today's event was something that Mion had been planning for a while. I was certain that she wouldn't suggest anything spontaneous today. In that case, this won't be up to random chance. Mion had only one idea in her mind. Therefore, it was equivalent to destiny. Although her idea of having this event in a toy store is actually a spontaneous one. In all the lives I've repeated, there's a very low chance for this event to occur.
だから、あまりそういうのは期待しない方がいいのです。期待してるわけじゃないわ。
Of course, I was lying just now. I was hoping that Mion would suggest a new rule for this game. It was the same rules again. I'd be suffering for a few minutes while I listened to her instructions. Nothing is more frustrating than walking the same path over and over again. Please, Mion, please change my fate. Please.
まずはくじ引きで5つの卓に分かれるよ。そして各卓から1人の勝者を出して
same rules after all.
ごめん。ちょっと期待した。
Well, better to hold out some kind of hope than none at all, I always say. Even if it is
変な
ultimately
期待は
futile.
かえってリカを傷つけますですよ。そうね。
Yeah, well, having no hope constantly, each and every day, that's just a continual pain, as far as I'm concerned. So, what else would you suggest she do?
何度も教えられてるのに、私も学ばないわね。
Hanyu has taught me so many times. She taught me the trick to swimming in the flow of destiny. The flow of destiny is just like a river's. By going to flow, I can swim in the direction I want to some extent. But of course, trying to swim against the flow requires great effort. Allowing myself to drift causes the least amount of strain. Of course, some strong currents are impossible to resist, even with great effort. If I recklessly try to resist without realizing it's impossible, then I'll only wear myself out needlessly, just as if fighting a river's current. So Hanyu taught me to read those currents, which is why I should have easily imagined that the rules would be the same the moment I learned Mion had planned today's event in advance. Yet I still wish the rules would be different. A completely wasteful action. In the end, my hopes were betrayed, only leaving my heart worn out. And things like that caused me to separate further from Rika Farud. Eventually I'll grow tired of everything, lose all interest, and die.
抗えない運命は受け入れる。リカなら運命の流れを読むことができますですよ。そうよね。ただでさえ短い残りの寿命、大事にしないとね。
I sighed and pretended as though I was listening to what Mion was explaining.
どうしたんだリカちゃん、退屈なのか？
Well, that's part of it, yes. Keiichi surprised me all of a sudden.
退屈って僕がですか？
This had never happened before, so I thought he was talking to someone else. But it seemed like Keiichi really was talking to me.
うん。なんか今朝は会ってからずっと退屈そうな顔をしてるからさ。ひょっとして早起きしすぎて寝不足なのか？
前に同じ部活をやったことがあるので、またなのかと思っただけなのです。
Well, that's a surprisingly honest answer. No one would understand what I mean anyway. But Keiichi might. And so, I told him how I honestly felt.
え？なんだそうなのか？なんだミオンめ。道理で手慣れてると思ったぜ。ま、俺は初めての参加だから十分楽しみだけどな。
If only you knew right then and there. Here, I mean. I envied him for feeling that way. I sighed, knowing that I never will.
確かに、すでに知ってる説明を延々と繰り返されると苦痛な時ってあるよな。俺も昔、塾で学校のだいぶ先まで習っててさ、遅れて習う学校が苦痛だったことがあるよ。
Keiichi didn't understand me. But I'm glad that at least he understood how frustrating it was to repeat the same situation.
そうなのです。僕も学校は特に苦痛なのですよ。
え？本当かよ。いつも楽しそうにしてるじゃないかよ。
Rika Farud is supposed to be happy at school. That's why I act that way.
すでに知っていることを延々と聞き続けなければならないのは、拷問以外の何者でもないと思いますのです。
It's easy for me to change what Satoko cooks for dinner. I can simply volunteer to cook instead of her. But I can't change what the teacher teaches at school every day. I have no choice but to be quiet and listen to her lecture.
まあ授業はどうしようもないよな。俺はそこを塾で習ってますから、その次をやってくださいなんて生意気言ったらいろいろと怒られるもんな。でもこいつは違うぜ。遊びじゃないか。
遊びではありますが、決まってるのですよ。
わかんねえぜ。だって5択に分かれるのはくじ引きだそうじゃないか。しかもそれぞれの択で何のゲームをやるかは任意に決めることになってる。今日どんなゲームで戦わされてどんな展開で盛り上がるかなんか全然想像がつかねえぜ。
予想はつきますですよ。
そんなことねえよ。
Keiichi smiled as he contradicted me. That smile seemed so ignorant to me.
くじ引きで5択に分かれますですが、部活メンバーはきれいに5択に分かれますです。圭一はあそこ、僕はそこの択なのです。そして僕は魚釣りのゲームをすることになります。圭一はすごろくの100億長者ゲームなのです。
I don't know how, but last time we were broken into 5 separate groups. It couldn't have been a coincidence. I'm sure Mion did something to ensure it would end up like that. I'm 100% sure. I'm 99.9% sure. As for games we play, I'm not totally sure, but if each member in the group follows the same thinking patterns, they'll probably end up making the same choices. If you roll dice many times, you begin to approach the average. One person's spontaneous act can be random, but multiple people's thoughts can be averaged out for the most part. The more people that are involved, the more difficult it is to alter the path of fate. That's why I'm pretty sure that we'll end up playing the same games. Keiichi seemed surprised to hear my prediction. And now you're gonna go out of your way to make sure that her prediction is proven wrong, right? Thus giving Rika more reason to be hopeful? You freaking better, man. Otherwise, I'm gonna be sorely disappointed.
予言か？よくそこまで言い切れるじゃねえか。
運命とはそういうものなのです。
へへ、運命なんて言われるとよ、意地でも抗ってみたくなるのが男ってもんだよな。
Well, you almost did in the last chapter, which makes it all the more frustrating for me that it didn't succeed. Well, I can't even imagine how Rika must have felt when she first learned that everything went kaput regardless. He smiled at me again. I knew that he was just smiling for that reason, but I felt a small hope from him. After all, Keiichi really did shatter fate before. Not completely, but that was just a miracle that happened in my previous life. I couldn't expect him to do the same thing in this one. Otherwise, I'd be worn down by my high expectations again.
はい、くじ引きはこの箱の中から1枚引いて決めよう。まず部活メンバーからね。
Mion drew first, then Satoko followed. The results were the same as last time.
初戦で部活メンバーとは当たりたくねえな。もしリカちゃんと当たったらごめんよ。
当たりませんですよ。圭一の卓はあそこ、僕の卓はそこなのです。
ちぇ、そううまくいってたまるかよ。うりゃ。
Keiichi looked upset.
ね。僕の予言は外れないのです。
5択の一つってことは 20% だもんな。適当に言ったって それだけの確率で当たるってことさ。
Keiichi told me it was just a coincidence.
なら、僕のくじも予想通りだったなら、何%の確率になりますですか？
20% の 20% だから、4% だな。さすがにこの確率だったら信じてもいいぜ。
Keiichi grinned at me, believing such a chance was impossible.
さあ、最後はリカちゃんだよ。
Mion handed me the box of slips. No matter what I did, I'd be getting that table. Well, if you always tend to grab the slips in the same general location, maybe you should consider doing a different location inside there instead? There was a reason behind it. Mion was doing something to make sure that we all get a different table. Oh, right. I guess there's that. I thought about why Mion would do that. With the information I've gathered about Mion over many years, I could see her reasoning.
多分、ミオンは部活のメンバーの誰かが1回戦で負けてしまったら気の毒だと思っているのでしょう。そうね。同じ卓に部活メンバーがぶつかり合ったら、どちらかのメンバーは必ず敗退することになる。
If everyone was in a different group, we'd all have a chance to move on to the second stage. That's why she was controlling this draw. I put my hand inside of the box. I could feel several folded pieces of paper inside it. But if you thought for a moment, it was odd. No matter which one I chose, I never get any other table. どう
いう仕掛けでリカを最後の卓へ送るようにしているのですか？
Maybe she swaps out the boxes when no one's looking? I don't know.
さあ、それはミオンに聞かないとわからないわね。でも一つ言えるのは、多分、この箱の中のどれを引いても、あの卓になると書いてあるはず。
I got it.
その箱の中には今、同じくじしか入っていない？
Well, considering how she always ends up at the last table, I think that would be pretty obvious.
そういうことになるわね。多分、ミオンの持つこの箱は、何か細工がしてあるんでしょうね。
It was probably a box for a magic show or something. There could be some kind of gimmick inside the box, and she can switch what's inside of it. Depending on who's drawing the paper, she changed out the loss and controlled the result. I didn't know exactly how, but I was sure she was doing something. I didn't even need to know how she was doing it. The most important thing was why.
どれにしようか迷いますです。
さあさあ、どれを選んでも運命は一緒だよ。
She was admitting it herself. I was certain then. Based on what I felt inside, there were less than 10 pieces of paper inside of this box. In other words, there were hidden pieces of paper that I couldn't touch somewhere inside the box. I smiled at Mion as I figured out her trick, but she had no clue why I was smiling.
では、これなのです。
はいよ。どれどれ？おお！
Well, how about that? Did you get one that didn't put you at that last table? Going by her reaction, I'd say yes.
すごいね！部活メンバーが全員きれいに分かれたよ！
God damn it, I spoke too soon. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Rika. Mion behaved as though this was news to her. She's such an actress. Hey, she got me too. The other contestants made a dissatisfied noise. They had to face a club member no matter which table they got. Whoops, Keiichi was surprised too. And not only because we were divided.
ね。運命は決まっていることなのです。
I smiled at him in return. Keiichi was in denial for a moment, but then he smiled back at me.
25分の1の確率で当てるとは、やるじゃねえか。
He was not. I predicted that Mio and Satoku would be at a different table, so the possibility was even lower than that. Keiichi understood that. But normal people like him can't understand that meaning of fate. That's why he put it off as a coincidence. But Keiichi... What if my prediction is right about what game he'll be playing? The possibility will be 1 in billions. There are a lot of games in this store. What if that prediction is right too? Will he still believe it's just a coincidence? I stayed quiet in my seat and waited to see what game my group was going to decide on. They were going to choose the fishing game. I can't expect him to choose anything other than that.
期待して裏切られたらまた辛くなるものね。
One of the boys stood up. He walked towards the shelf full of games and picked up one box. He lifted the box above his head and turned around so he could show it to us. I closed my eyes as he did so, but I could still hear what he was saying.
見ろよ、これこれ。懐かしいよな。これにしねえか。
あー、知ってるよそれ。魚がくるくる回って口をパクパクさせるのを釣るやつだろ。
I could taste the bitter chemicals from my brain in my mouth. I clenched my lips and tried to endure the numbing feeling.
ごめん。今日は体調が悪いのかしらね。なぜかうまく受け流せないわ。
It wasn't because I wasn't feeling well, of course. It was because of my emotions. Our powers are getting weaker, and if we can only rewind about 2 weeks of our lives. I was feeling that the end was near for us. In order for me to change my tragic fate, I need more time to prepare. But I can only go back 2 weeks. That means my power to resist my fate has significantly weakened. Even if I became as weak as a small leaf in the river, I should be able to do something in order to change my path. But if I can only go back to the point where I'm getting ready to be swallowed into the whirlpool, there's no chance for me to escape it. I lived for so long, believing I could eventually escape my fate and survive. I believed I had a chance in every moment of every life I lived. But there are limits to those chances. There are so many limits in my repeated lives. And perhaps this might be my last chance. That may be why I'm feeling so restless.
ダメです、リカ。難しく考えれば考えるほど心に良くないのです。分かってるわよ。ちょっと黙ってて。
My brain was numb, as if surrounded by a gray mist. I was inside the crowded toy store, but felt very far away from everyone else. The tighter I closed my eyes and the harder I clenched my teeth, the emptier my head became. No.
リカ、しっかり。
As I tried to focus, I became conscious again. Hanyu looked at me with concern. I tend to lose my mind easily, right after coming back from death. I usually have more time to relax and get used to my new life. But I have no time for that now. The Watanagashi festival is only 2 weeks away. I can't just relax and wait for myself to get used to things. Don't be a wimp, Rika. Don't be a wimp. Fight against fate. But even if I do, that fate always betrays me and I grieve. What if I did the opposite? What if I didn't fight against fate? A few weeks after the Watanagashi Festival of 1983, I will die because I am fated to do so. Fight, don't fight, 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 fight, don't fight. As I repeat the same words, they started to lose all meaning. I felt like I was chanting something. I bit my tongue in my mind and forced myself to stop thinking about it. I was calming down a little bit. When I opened my eyes, I saw the fishing game right in front of me, as well as my pole. Someone placed it there while I had my eyes closed. It was as if I was seeing the immovable reality of fate right in front of me. It felt like a final verdict to me. Come on. Give me something that will make things radically different. Or even subtly different. Give this girl a reason to be hopeful. What do you think, Keiichi? This is what fate is all about. Do I want to earn his agreement or his sympathy? I stood up and walked towards Keiichi's table. His group couldn't decide on a game, so the store owner was deciding for them. Just like the last time. The store owner will pick the game of life.
やっぱり相手の提案するゲームじゃ不利だもんな。なんて言って互いの提案を蹴り合うもんだからちっとも決まりゃしねえんだ。リカちゃんの方は決まったのか？
見ればわかりますですよ。
He looked at my table and saw the fishing game there. Keiichi was surprised to see my prediction was right again. He also remembered that I predicted his game too.
じゃあマスターはリカちゃんの予言した100億長者ゲームを持ってくるっていうのかよ。
僕は時々予言もできますのですよ。ニパー。
本当かよおい。よしよし。じゃあマスターが本当に100億長者ゲームを持ってきたなら信じてやるぜ。
Or you could just throw in a wrench into this prediction right here and now.
そうです。
That'd be nice.
ケイイチたちは100億長者ゲームで戦うことになりますです。
よしよし。そこまで言うなら勝負しようじゃねえか。あ、マスターを買収してあるなんてのはなしだぞ。
マスターが売れ残りのゲームを持ってこようと強く思っているなら必然の結果になりますのです。
I remembered it was covered by dust when he gave it to them last time. Since we had to buy the game if we lost, he was trying to sell products he had a surplus of. Therefore, he won't be choosing any game at random. He'll be looking for one with bad sales. With such a strong will to do so. That will of his is going to make the pull of fate all the stronger. In that sense, there's no guarantee that he'd be choosing a game of life specifically. He might choose something else that's also overstocked. The owner finally reappeared with a box covered in dust.
No.
Well, shit.
ね、言った通りなのですよ。
He has a game of life box in his hands. The part of me that hoped it wouldn't be the game of life tasted bitterness at the betrayal, but the cynical part of me that expected it to happen found it amusing in a way. I felt like my personality was twisting more and more.
マスター、どうしてそのゲームを選んだんです？
ん？いやいや、本当に気まぐれだよ。 倉庫の在庫から適当に探し出したのさ。決して売れ残りの一番傷んだやつを持ってきたわけじゃないんだよ。
When he heard that the owner chose the game randomly, Keiichi shrugged his shoulders in confusion. That must be his way of surrendering.
なあ、リカちゃん。これって、マジの予言なのか？
みぱ
いやさ、村のお年寄りに、リカちゃんはお社様の生まれ変わりで、神通力があるって力説されたことがあるんだよ。
Turns out they were right. Hindsight being 2020.
未来の予言とかができて、ものすごい的中率だとかなんとか。それって本当なのか？
I was surprised that Keiichi actually believed the superstitious stories he heard from the elderly villagers. Well, they're not wrong.
決まっている運命を読むだけなのです。もっと言えば、前に一度見てきた世界なのですから。
チェックソ。ここまで当てられちゃ、そんなバカなとも言えやしない。
Keiichi seems like he was just fooling around. He probably only thinks I'm goofing around and acting haughty because of my random predictions all came true. I had hope for him. I thought the owner might bring a different game, because Keiichi once had the power to change fate. But that didn't happen. I'm not surprised. But I felt betrayed again. It hurts.
賭けは僕の勝ちなのですよ。
I speak to Keiichi sarcastically. I wanted him to understand that no one can change the path of fate. However, Keiichi did nothing but smile. Do your thing, you magnificent fool.
調子に乗るなよ、リカちゃん。運命を読めるなんていい加減なことを言っちゃいけないぜ。男にとって宿命と運命という言葉はもっともっと尊くて熱い意味がこもってるんだ。そんなやすやすと読めるようなもんじゃねえ。
I had no idea what he was trying to say, but he made me nervous. It wasn't a scary feeling. No, it was closer to hope.
さっきリカちゃんはマスターが100億長者ゲームを持ってくることを運命だと言った。偶然であったとしても的中したのだからリカちゃんが正しいと言わざるを得ないさ。でもな、こうも言ったよな。
何ですか？
俺が100億長者ゲームで戦うことも運命だってな。
Indeed. She did say that. So, you're gonna not play it, right? Yes. It was indeed his fate. Fate can change sometimes, with uncertainty and time. But the possibility that it would change in this situation was very slight. I doubted that anything would turn out differently.
なら、その運命とやらを、俺が。
Keiichi stood up in a hurry. Then he started talking to Tomata and Okamura, his group members.
すまん、俺、100億長者ゲームは持ってるんだよ。だから、ルールの裏の裏まで知り尽くしてる。
そうなんですか？
ああ。だからこのセレクトはフェアじゃないよな。マスター、申し訳ないんですけど、100億長者ゲームの隣に置いてあった他のゲームに変えてもらえませんか？
そうかい？わかったよ。じゃあ他のを持ってこよ
う。The owner picked up the game of life again and took it back into storage. Attaboy! As I remained there in shock, he returned with a game called Pop-Up Pirate.
これならどうかな？
あの樽にナイフを刺すゲームですよね。
どうだよ、二人とも。これならフェアだろ？
そうですね。ルールもわかりやすいし、それにしましょ
う。じゃあ決まり。俺たちの卓はこれで勝負だ。
Keiichi winked at me as I stood there with my mouth open. I wish I could see your face right now. It looked like he had just forcefully changed my prediction. But for me, it's not that simple. It was supposed to be fate. That's why the owner brought the game of life to their table. They were supposed to play that game. That's what happened the last time. That was what was supposed to happen. But he just changed that fate in front of my eyes like it was nothing. It's as if someone asked me to stand an egg on its end. And as I struggled to do so, Keiichi forcefully cracked the egg and made it stand up in front of me. I should have had a far greater power than Keiichi. But why was I feeling so weak? Was it because I wasn't trying to fight against fate so I wouldn't get hurt? Because I was going to the flow without trying too hard? What was I thinking?
リカちゃんさ、さっきすっげえつまらなさそうな顔してたよな。それってあれだろ？魚釣りゲームじゃ嫌だなって不安が的中しちゃってふてくされてたんだろ？
そうね。今さら隠さない。
じゃあ簡単じゃないか。
So I'm a witch who's been living for more than 100 years. So I thought I was better than everyone, just because I can see the paths of fate. That's stupid. I really am so stupid. Keiichi tapped me on the back. He was urging me to return to my table. The sensation of his touch filled my heart with emotion. I wasn't going to stand idly by anymore. I thought I couldn't cheat fate. I thought 2 weeks wasn't enough. But Keiichi just defied his fate in a matter of 5 minutes! He may be a complete dumbass at times, but I won't deny he can be very talented when he needs to be.
僕は魚釣りゲームはお魚さんがかわいそうだと思いますので、他のゲームにしたいのですよ。
The art people at my table looked at me with confused expressions. Their reactions were scaring me. Right at that moment, I could really feel that I was facing the impenetrable wall of fate. Even so, I have nothing to be scared of.
そっか。じゃあ、リカちゃんは何がいい？リカちゃんの提案する他のゲームでいいよ。
They accepted my suggestion and gave up on the fishing game so easily. That's right. I used to be much more aggressive before. But I became so tired, and bitter, and mean. I gave in to fate. But I'm not going to yield anymore. Keiichi taught me that. He didn't have any memories from his previous life, but Keiichi was still Keiichi. He'd never give in to fate.
久しぶりに運命と戦おうという気力が充実するのを感じるわ。やる気があれば、ものの5分でだって運命は変えられる。それが2週間もあるんだもの。今回は、これ、もっともっと、運命と戦ってみせる。頑張りましょう、なのです。
In contrast to my motivation, Hanyu was wearing a sad expression.
"そっか。おじさんの店の手伝いってんじゃ仕方ねえな。
Keiichi, I'd give you a big hug right now if I could.
ささやかなお店だけどね。 でもさ、特売やれば主婦が殺到するの常識で読めないのかね。店員足りないのに卵1パックを一人様1点限り10円なんてやるな。
As we were getting ready to move on to the next stage, Mion got a call from work. This was fated to happen too. If I was still feeling depressed, I would have been disgusted at this situation. But after learning what it was like to change fate, I was in a good mood. Your uncle can go fuck himself. I'm sure he could sell those eggs just fine. Come chill out with us instead. Keiichi and Mion seemed like they kept regretting that they were unable to settle the match. They were really such good friends.
本当にあの二人は仲がいいね。仲良しさんすぎてレナは焼いちゃうよ。はお。うちのクラスにはケイイチさんと近い年の男子がいませんものね。ケイイチさんにはちょうどいい男友達の感覚なんじゃありませんの？それでもみーちゃんは女の子なんだよ。男の子にはなれないよ。それは分かってますけど、こうしていると仲のいい男子同士にしか見えませんわね。
Reina and Satoko enjoyed the lingering excitement of the day as they watched Mion and Keiichi happily goof off. The next moment, the owner came out from the toy store.
みんな、今日は本当にありがとう。おかげでイベントは大盛り上がりだったよ。
He was holding 4 paper bags in his hands. I remember. He gave us gifts as a reward for today. I think there were dolls inside.
大したものじゃないけど、これ今日のおだちんに。
あ、吉郎おじさん。私にはないの？おだちん。
He was giving them only to us. Mion didn't get anything because she's a family member. That's what happened last time too.
可愛いのが出てきましたわよ。
Satoko let out a cheer of joy as she saw a cute doll inside of her bag. Reina reacted the same way.
わあ、これかわいい。お持ち帰りしていいの？本当に？
ってことは俺のもかな。なんだかやたら可愛いのが出てきたぞ。
Keiichi got a gorgeous, expensive-looking doll. It was by far the best one. It was adorable even to my eyes. Satoko, Reina, and Mion were feeling the same way.
ケイちゃんには一番似合わないのが出てきちゃったね。
Mion started making fun of him right away. She was only saying that because she was jealous that Keiichi got a doll that she really wanted.
なんつうのか、プリティっていうか、キュートっていうか。
Hey Keiichi, would you be willing to betray Rika's expectations again for me? Give the doll to Mion this time, why don't you?
可愛いのは認めるんだが、着せ替え人形はちょっとな。
ケイちゃんが持ってたら確実に明日から変な趣味の人扱いだね。うん。
Mion just can't be honest with herself. It was obvious that she was just trying to make him give up the doll so she could have it herself. She should just admit that and ask Keiichi for it. But that's the cute side of Mion. I bet Keiichi can never understand that. Hehe. Keiichi can't keep the doll after receiving that much bullying from Mion. He was thinking about who he should give it to. He probably didn't want to give it to Mion. Time froze for a moment. Hanyu whispers something in my ear.
リカ、覚えていますですか？
ええ。
Oh, we're getting a choice right out of the gate, huh? I advised him on who he should give the doll to. Wait, you know what? I wonder if this time I should just follow my intuition or just go with the blatantly bad option right from the get-go. And just let whatever is in store for us play out before coming back here. But then again, I mean, I'm going to be coming back to check this out regardless, whether it's sooner or later. So you know what? I'm going with my intuition this time. I remembered that Keiichi's insensitive decision eventually caused a fatal ending. That was fate. Keiichi was internally thinking that he should give the doll to Mion. She was the only one who didn't get anything, so it'd be natural for him to give it to her. But the hesitation he was feeling was because Mion was such a close friend to him. He'd been treating Mion as if she was a male friend. But it would be weird to give a doll to another boy. He was afraid that if he gave the doll to Mion, he would start looking at her as a girl from that point onward. He wanted to continue his friendship with Mion without thinking about their difference in gender. He didn't want to ruin the relationship they had at that moment. That's why he couldn't give the doll to Mion. Even though she was the only one without a doll, he felt so hesitant. Of course, that was only how he felt. Mion didn't agree. In actuality, she wished he would treat her more like a girl. I walked closer to Keiichi so I could talk to him. If Mion heard me telling Keiichi to give her the doll, she would resist taking it. I had to make sure that no one but Keiichi could hear me. I also had to make this very quick. I poked Keiichi in the back. Keiichi, the person who really wants that doll is the one who's bullying you the most about it. I was going to say that, but Keiichi opened his mouth first, even before I could say anything to him.
ああ、わかってるって。
I hadn't said anything to him yet, but Keiichi told me that he knew. He fucking better. I felt confused, not knowing what he just meant. He turned around to face Mion, smiling mischievously. This mischievous smile is not filling me with hope, son.
ミオン、俺が持ってると変な趣味なら、こりゃ誰が持ってりゃ丸く収まるってんだ？
そんなことは知らないよ。まあお人形なんて男の子の持つものじゃないよねって言っただけだしさ。
ほう。じゃあお前が持てば万事解決じゃないか。
Hell yeah!
ほれ。
Oh my god, we even get a CG! Look! He's defying fate and we get a CG for it! Keiichi tossed the doll to Mion as if passing her a basketball. As if forcing her to carry his bag or something. Mion's face quickly turned red. Feeling shy, Keiichi turned away from her. That was surprising. He got my message just by getting a tap on his back. Was Keiichi always that smart? He's brilliant but lazy, is what I would describe him as. Just one tap was all it took. I don't think he would have done the same in a previous life. This was just a small incident, but this world is definitely different from the previous one. Or could it be? Perhaps he would have given that doll to Mion even if I didn't poke him in the back? I don't know.
受け継いでいる。まさかそんなこと あるわけがないのです。
I know for a fact that he doesn't have those memories, but there might be something imperceptible somewhere inside his heart. He might remember some of the regrets he felt in the previous worlds. That's why he strongly felt he should be giving the doll to Mion this time. After repeating so many lives, I'm the only one who can even notice this slight growth of his. But I see it. It's clearly visible to me. Mion, having turned red, insisted that the cute doll would be a much better fit for Reina. Her attitude made it clear that she really wanted the doll, but couldn't be honest about it.
だからさ、おじさん、こういう可愛いお人形はさ、ちゃんとした可愛い女の子に渡した方が似合うと思うんだよね。
It's okay. You can embrace it. Your feminine side and the doll, I mean.
に渡してもほら、人形の方が可哀想というか。
Oh, bullshit.
欲しいくせに顔に書いてあるじゃねえかよ。
違う、書いてなんかないよ。嘘つき、意地悪。
This is so fucking adorable. Mion shook her head with an embarrassed look, pretending she wasn't interested in the doll. Everyone here knew that she wanted it. We all looked at Mion with big smiles on their faces.
おいおい、別に女の子じゃないと人形は渡せないとか、そういう考え方じゃねえぞ。こいつは俺と今日の部活で熱い睨み合いをしてくれた親友への贈り物なんだぜ。
そうなの？ケイちゃんは男の子の友達にも人形を渡すわけ？
まあ確かに選べる範囲があるならわざわざ人形は選ばねえな。でもよ、男の世界じゃ相手に悪意がない限り贈り物は拒まねえぜ。相手の気持ちなんだからよ。変に断られるとかえって男気がないよな。
じゃあ女の子でなくても人形を受け取ってもいいんだ。
Everyone thought Mion's reaction was hilarious. Reina couldn't stop chuckling. Satoko and I burst out laughing too. Mion, having realized she was being laughed at, got even more embarrassed.
男が仲間に送ったもんだぜ。大事にしなかったら承知しないぞ。
おじさんがこの人形が欲しいからもらうんじゃないよ。
Okay, I believe you.
ケイちゃんが仲間に送るって言ったから、ケイちゃんの顔を立てるために受け取るんだからね。
Hanyu was cracking up too. She was laughing in a loud voice, knowing that no one could hear her anyway. But was this really a good way to resolve the problem? I thought that Mion's issue in the previous life was that she wanted Keiichi to treat her like a girl. She got the doll, but Keiichi still wasn't treating her that way. Still, Mion looked very happy. Maybe it wasn't a big deal after all. I'm sure that Mion will take the doll with her to bed tonight. She'll kiss it goodnight, too. I could bet on that. It was written all over her face.
ようやく受け取ってくれたぜ。人形1個渡すのに手間のかかるやつだぜ。
Keiichi turns around to face us, smiling bitterly.
ケイチくん100点満点かな僕もそう思いますです。あの意地っ張りのミオンによくお人形を渡せましたです。ミオンさんも笑っちゃいますわね。欲しいってあんなに顔に書いてあるのに痩せ我慢なんかしちゃって。
違いねえな。
こらおじさんの陰口を言ってるでしょ。
Well, they're certainly not flattering things, so I guess technically, yes, we are? No, thank you.
みーちゃん、バイト急がなくていいの？遅刻しちゃうよ。
もう覚えてなよ。
Mion seems like she wanted to stay longer, but after looking at her watch, she started heading to work. Everyone was wearing smiles on their faces. Today was such a fun day. Everyone had lots of fun, and no one was hurt. I've repeated this same day so many times before, but this time something was different. It's like I rolled a die and got a 6, and then I rolled it again and got a 6 again. I don't know if this was just a lucky coincidence, or if it was meant to be. It's as if the god of fate is celebrating my motivation to fight against him. New tips unlocked. Good times with Orishiro-sama. Those existed? I kid. I don't really know for sure. Let's find out. I was watching TV with Satoko and Hanyu after eating dinner. It was a variety show, and the performers were making the audience laugh. We were laughing too.
ざまあないでございますわね。はうはうはう。でもとっても痛そうなのです。みぱー。
While the three of us were enjoying ourselves, in reality there was only Satoko and me in the room. I'm the only one who can see Hanyu. I hear a ringing in my ears. Maybe it's nothing. Satoko can't see her at all. Hanyu responds every time Satoko says anything. Satoko can't hear her, but Hanyu still responds to her when she's in a good mood. It's like she's answering a question asked on TV. You could even compare it to playing house. She started playing this game with other people, because she can't communicate with anyone else but me. Hanyu always attends our club meetings and has a good time there too. The hidden friend, the hidden member that we never knew existed, but was always present with us from day one. If she could communicate with my other friends, she would have been a good match for us. But I don't want to hurt her feelings by thinking about that. If the story of the miracle, written in the old scriptures is true, if it's really Hanyu who performed it, she's someone who had tremendous power long ago. Story of the miracle, huh? And what exactly is that miracle? But now she doesn't have any spiritual power, and I'm the only one who can even see her. Hanyu has never told me how she lost her power. I just have to assume that her spiritual power diminished over time. There's a legend in the Farud family that says that Orishiro-sama will be reborn if a girl is born to the family 7 generations in a row. With my birth, Hanyu was finally able to communicate with a human for the first time in centuries. Wait a minute. So what you're saying is Hanyu is Orishiro-sama? Wait, so then that would mean that legend is not accurate then. It's not so much that Orishiro-sama is reincarnated, but rather she can communicate with a specific human if the right conditions happen, that being a girl being born to the Farud family 7 generations in a row. If I'm assuming all this correctly, then... well, holy shit! Turns out Orishiro-sama is nowhere near the threatening deity that everyone imagines him, or rather her, to be. Maybe I should just let this continue and just confirm it. Does that mean Orishiro-sama has returned? The villager's image of Orishiro-sama doesn't quite match up with that of Hanyu. I know, which is why I will admit I'm not 100% certain. Especially when I see her lying on her belly and watching TV with Satoko. If I'm right, then this really flips a lot of our interpretations of Orishiro-sama completely on their heads. Mine, and probably everyone else, and probably almost everyone else who's watching this too, who isn't already familiar with this story from start to finish. But that just begs the question then. If my latest theory here, my latest assumptions are in any way correct, then what exactly does that mean for the rest of the narrative as I understand it, of past events? Thinking about it let me just turn that off. Thinking about it, all I can think about right now is that it would confirm that Orishiro-sama is not a malicious entity, at least going by what we see here so far. So that would then mean that the curse of Orishiro-sama that says that if you go against Orishiro-sama's will, you will be cursed for it. That wouldn't really match up with Hanyu's demeanor, because she does not seem like the sort of person who would curse anyone, especially over a malicious reason. Maybe it's too soon for me to be making this assumption about her character. We are just starting this, and we are just more or less being formally introduced to her now. I shouldn't forego that possibility that maybe I'm mistaken about her true character, and so is Rika. But getting back to what I was saying, if she is indeed Orishiro-sama, then our understanding of Orishiro's curse goes flat on its head, because Orishiro-sama, or rather Hanyu, is not the malicious entity that we would expect to inflict such a curse that we've been seeing all the way up until this point to begin with. And I was assuming that this thing was even a curse to begin with, which you all should know full well by now. I never thought it was an actual curse from day one. At least not completely. I mean, I entertained the idea a couple of times when things got really confusing, but that's a discussion for another time. Anyway, so if Hanyu is the sort of person who wouldn't curse anybody over something like leaving the village and whatnot, then I would think that gives more credence to my idea that it's not a curse that's really affecting the characters, but rather something else entirely. That everyone is just misinterpreting to be a curse from Orishiro-sama. I want to be at 100% certain that Hanyu is Orishiro-sama before I completely start running with this theory of mine. Because until I know for certain who Hanyu is and what exactly the nature of her connection to Rika is, I don't feel completely comfortable running with this new idea of mine and just letting it lead me wherever it takes me. At least more than I've already have anyway. So I'm hoping that maybe next time, for the next episode, I will get something that will confirm her true identity and the nature of her relationship to Rika to me. Because once I know that, then I'll know for sure how I should start viewing these things that I've talked about. And what they'll end up meaning for our understanding of previous events. Anyway, I feel like I'm repeating myself, so I'm just going to go ahead and end things here. I hope you guys enjoyed this latest episode of Higurashi When It Cry Kai Chapter 7. If you did and you want to see more content from me, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all next time. Take care.